It took me a minute to get that all there. Okay, now let's go back to my screen share. And this is what I want to do. Now, do you have any business that y'all need to do before we get going? Like as in your local chapter kind of business, do you guys need to do anything like that?
I'm not aware of any. I mean, our date to register for musicianship exams is coming up. It's either today or
Charlene?
tomorrow. So
Usually the business happens at the end, I think.
Yes. Can
I'm
you
on
hear
the
me?
hands free for you guys. Okay. I think I've got all of those fun things going. It should all work okay. So everyone can hear me?
Yes. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring this meeting into session. Thank you for everyone who is here. And this is Charlene Chelsea, and she's one of the famous three cranky women, which is, I heard the story when you were at Bill Jones Music years ago about how you got that name, and I love it. And I have used her materials for years, and they are fun and they're wonderful, and we're just so excited to have her here. So let's give a round of applause. Yay!
Well, thank you for having me. This is great. So if we're ready, I'm going to just go through my slides and tell you all kinds of fun things. I'm happy to answer any questions as we go. Just type them in the chat and Chris will relay those to me as we go. So a few years ago, I started, I just had this idea of 100 days of practice. Actually, we call it a practice streak. And it seemed a bit overwhelming, but I found after doing this for 3 or 4 years that it has been a game changer in my studio. It's been kind of amazing. So I'm going to show you how I got that started and did that. This is my cute student Josephine, and I made this meme, and in that Google Drive I gave you, I put several practice memes that you feel free to use and send on to your students if it helps to motivate them. But it's nice for them to see important things like, you know, if you do this today, it will get what will happen and matter tomorrow. So before we even jump into that, you're going to see my club piano logo as we go through. So although I'm a member of TCW, most of the things that I'm talking to you about today are about my private piano studio. And I'm happy to answer TCW questions as we go, but it's not my goal to sell you products today. It's just to tell you how I've been doing this for my program. So a few years ago, I'm going to give you a quick background to how I came this name of club piano. I had a student that had committed to doing our big ensemble concert, 400 kids, right, where they all play on 10 pianos. She committed in the fall. We have a list of rules, all the specifics were there, and she committed. We were all on the same page. She signed the document. It came time to the first practice, and the mom says, "Oh, she has club volleyball. She's club volleyball. She can't go to that. Her volleyball is more important." I was livid. And I was trying really hard to be nice. And in my brain, I thought, wait a minute. One, I'm not charging enough because she was complaining about how much she charged for her volleyball. And two, I think I do as much or more than these club sports do with my piano, with all the things that I require and ask my kids to do. So, you know, I am not your around the corner piano teacher. I just need to change and reframe how my students think about what we're doing in our piano lessons. So that's how I came up to the term of club piano, so the students would understand what that was. So I modeled my studio similarly. So I've written it all up in my policies about how I'm different that way. And listing things like I offer a lot. They have 4 or 5 performance opportunities that they do. We do private lessons and group classes, tons of festivals, competitions. I'm the incentive queen. It's all about some kind of a reward that helps them get over those hurdles to play better. And then, to be honest, my product I produce, my students play well. So I know that I can really promote those things because they play well. And then my motto is superb teaching, dedicated students, and supportive parents will create great results. So since I've remarketed my studio that way, my clientele's changed a bit. I'm a strong believer of I will teach anyone. I don't care who you are. Talent means nothing to me because I'd much rather have a student who works hard than one who thinks they're amazing and then doesn't do anything. So as long as the parents are nice and I can work with the parents and the kids are willing to work, I'll teach anyone. So that's the history of club piano. So you'll see kind of that. So here we go into how to motivate consistent practicing. This is my cute nephew in this meme. No, he's a teenager now. So I think he was 9 in this picture. But I love how confident he is. And I have loved the feeling that my students get when they have really they practiced consistently. I know they have, they know they have. And the results are pretty amazing. So here's how this started for me. I had a few unmotivated teens. And I'm sure, like you, my studio, does this thing depending on the year. I think I'm in my 34th or something year of teaching. It's kind of a long time. But during that time, my teenagers, I had a lot more teenagers than I had little kids. And they were like, not very motivated. And seriously, like this cute girl in this meme right here, they were like, gee, does that count as practice? I was sitting at the piano. I mean, I was there, I was practicing, and I'm all about marking what you're supposed to do and keeping track, but they can mark anything. And we can all tell as teachers whether they're doing it or not. So I was frustrated because I was getting comments from them that said, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm really practicing. And the results were horrible. They just were like, really? I'm not seeing that. And I have done tons of practice incentives, and the teens just didn't care, which is fine. Not everyone wants to have an incentive. Some kids are just taking lessons because their parents make them. But, if they're going to be there, they might as well have something to work for. And sometimes that helps them to get over those humps that they need. So I did a little bit of research. I am a big podcast listener and book listener. And I was listening to Hidden Brain, which if you haven't listened to that podcast, it's pretty great. And they were talking about how to motivate change. And as I was listening to this podcast, I had this, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do. So they were telling the story of Odysseus, and I think it was Odysseus, and they tie him to the helm of the ship because he's going to pass those sirens, and everyone that hears the sirens on this, when they're going past the ship, so beautiful, they can't keep themselves from crashing into the waves and they all die. And he knows ahead of time that it's going to be hard for him. So he has them tie him to the bulkhead ship, right? So he doesn't, so he can withstand all the pressure. And he tells everyone to watch out, and it totally works for him. And I think, okay, accountability is key. He's got to have people helping him do that. That's why it works to make that kind of change. And my other light bulb moment is I used to be a runner before I fell and broke my ankle in a bad way. And I was running a lot of marathons. And for me, I'm a goal person, and it helped me stay in shape. So lots of people in the running community do these running streaks where they'll run every day for like a mile. It has to be at least a mile, this minimum amount, but they have to run every day to maintain their streak. And they miss a day, they have to start over. And I thought about it, and truly there are people that have run every day for like 10 years. which I think is kind of amazing. Which takes serious dedication, like, you're sick or you're on vacation or whatever. So it was kind of a thing. And I thought, how can I apply this idea for my students, not be too overwhelming, but make that work for them and have them be accountable, not just to me, but I wanted them accountable to each other. So here's what I did. Well, I'm going to tell you what it produces first, and then I'll give you all the little tools. Daily progress, even if it's just a little bit, goes a long way. I think we all know. I require a daily minimum for my students to be in the streak. And for my studio, I've had just my older students participate in this 100-day streak. I know other teachers who've done more, but I do 7th to 12th grade students because I find my younger crowd, I can motivate them other ways than this way. And in order to make this practice streak work, they have to have a phone or an iPad or something to record themselves practicing. And most teenagers, believe it or not, I'm sure you all know, all have phones already, even at 12. The accountability I'm talking about, these kids are all in a group video chat and they can watch each other practice every day. So it's kind of amazing. Now, the camaraderie that comes from these groups is fantastic. You can see them get on and they're like, hey, everybody, this is what I did today. And they'll do silly, funny things sometimes to see if anyone's watching. But they're all in their same group piano class when we have group once a month. So that helps, just helps bond them closer together as a team so that when they perform for each other at recitals, they are friends. And it just puts a nice little piano group together. So that's that one. And then the student confidence is pretty incredible. Even if they're only doing 10 minutes a day, that small amount is enough for them to see a vast difference when they come to their piano lesson. And I see it too. Our lessons are so much more productive because guess what? They're prepared. They're completely prepared. Night and day difference from when they do the streak from when they don't do the streak. Parents are thrilled. They're really happy about it. And yeah, I am a pretty happy teacher when I do the streak. So
Olivia,
hang on, I'm going to go back before I play cute little Olivia. Olivia's going to tell you a little bit about the streak. Hang on, I got to scroll through all those first. And I hope you'll be able to hear the sound on her. Here we go. Here's Olivia.
so Olivia, you've done the streak how many times now?
Oh, too many to count, Charlene. Maybe like 4.
So what's been your experience with the streak? What do you like about it and what do you not like about it?
Something that I don't like about the streak is that, well, it's every day. But then what I do like about it is that because it's every day, my practicing is just magically perfect every single week. No matter what song it is, it gets like improved at a rapid rate compared to when I don't have the streak. It forces me to practice every single day, even if it's very late at night sometimes. But then all of a sudden, my practicing is just amazing.
That's not true. I have noticed that. So how long do you usually spend when you do your streak?
I usually spend at least 12 minutes. And well, 12 minutes is about how long my technique takes, but with technique and the song, it takes me anywhere from like 20 to 30, depends on, how much I'm assigned for the streak, but at least 12.
Thanks, Olivia.
So just so you know, Olivia, when I interviewed her at age 11 or 10, she was a transfer student. She told me that her goal in life was to become the president of the United States. So she's a super high overachiever. I love her. And she frequently wants me to assign her entire lesson on the streak because it will force her to practice everything every single day. Now, I don't always do that. I only really require that they practice all of their technique assignments, scales, arpeggios, cadences, and transposing or whatever keyboard skill they're working on. and then just one repertoire piece each time. Some kids will only do the bare minimum, and others get like, just give it all to me. So her streaks tend to be much longer and more thorough because since she's planning on being the president of the United States, she's very detail oriented. She marks every little thing down, and she's all about getting everything done just right. So that's Olivia for you. So in that Google Drive, I sent a PDF of the 100-day practice streak that my students do. So it looks something like this. And I pass this out to all of my students ahead of time in the fall. They've been doing this long enough that they know the routine. For the first time this year, I offer 2 streaks a year because I just been running my studio in 2 semesters. And in order to stay in my studio, these teenagers have to complete one streak. Otherwise they're out. And I'm doing that because since I'm like club sports, you don't just get to stay in just because whatever. You have to do something challenging. Most of them all did it in the fall. I have 3 kids right now that didn't do it in the fall. They started and petered out in the first week. So I have these other 3 that have to do it this time. By the way, I have, let's see, 6, I have 11 altogether that are doing it again this time. So a bunch of them are just repeat doing it because they see the benefits, which I kind of think is amazing. I always end my streak day on a day they have a performance. So they have to practice 100 days continuously until a recital or if they have a judged event. But I always find that date and then I count back my 100 days from there. And these are the questions that I get every time. A streak means every day. What? Every day? Yeah, every day. Every day. Even on my birthday? Yep, even on your birthday. Even on like Martin Luther King Day? Yep. Even on Easter, even on Thanksgiving. Yep, it means every single, even if you're sick, even if you're sick. You can get to the piano for a minimum amount and do it. You can do it. You have to just plan. But what I'm like, no, you don't get to do makeups. So then you're not doing a streak. Then this piece you're out. So I know I sound really harsh, but I'm telling you, you cross that line and then they all will take a day off and it's over and they won't do it. I don't know about you, but when I diet, I'm not very good at it. So if I am not doing something like I'm not allowed to eat whatever chocolate, that's a horrible one to choose. But if I wasn't eating chocolate, I do fine. The minute I take one bite in my brain, it's over. I've taken one bite. I might as well have another one. So practicing is the same. If they miss a day, they're like, well, I already missed it. I'm out. So I might as well just not do it. And that's how they all think. So I totally make them do it every day. The first year I did it from midnight to midnight. And I found that I had some kids who'd get on there at midnight. I'm like, wait a minute. So I changed it to 1 a.m. to 1 a.m. So they have to get it. And then I have to do things like you have to start your streak at least 12:45 a.m. because you have to give yourself at least 15 minutes to do it. So, it's crazy the kind of rules you have to make up. I don't always write those specifically down in there for them, but that's kind of how that goes. I list also on that fun little paper the cost for them to do it, which is nothing. I don't charge them any money to do the streak, right? They all have to have this app. The app is free for them. It's free for me too, but I pay to upgrade the service. I'll tell you why I do that. But you certainly don't have to do that. And then I usually have a reward sometime at the end, but the biggest reward, and they don't figure this out till they've already done it, but the biggest reward is, oh my gosh, they can really play, like really play. Their technique skills are amazing, which makes them play all their pieces so much better. But I usually throw some kind of a party, go to the movies or something fun like that. So whatever their technique assignment, I assign them that, and I select a piece for them for their streak piece, depending on what their lesson is. Most of my students work on 3 repertoire pieces at a time. Sometimes less. Some of the teenagers are just working on 2. But depending on what they sound like at their lesson, I'll swap it up. So if they're not sounding so great, I just switch and say, yeah, your streak piece is this one. It needs the most work. Then they record their practicing in a group chat. So this Marco Polo app is very similar to like on your text messaging. If you have a group text, you can make this Marco Polo group, put everybody in there. And as they're recording, it shows up and it doesn't stay on your device. That's the best part about the whole thing. And everyone can see everybody else practicing. And let me tell you, since they think someone's watching them, they think their friends are watching them, they practice, or I might watch them. I tell them I'm going to watch them at least one a week. I don't always do that because it takes so much time, but they practice so much better because there's a camera on to check to see if they're really doing it. So here, if we move on to this next part, we're going to talk a little bit about the daily progress and how that little bit goes a long way. And I'm going to share this fun video with you of Josephine. My required daily minimum, again, is the technique's the most important for me. So usually they're doing arpeggios, 2 or 3 keys, a couple of scales and cadences, and some type of keyboard skill. For my teenagers, they're playing a folk tune in all the keys, so that might give them 2 or 3 keys to do, or they're modulating or something like that. So here is Josephine.
So this is Josephine. How old are you? 16. How many streaks have you done? Do you think?
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Do you notice a difference?
Yes.
What do you notice the most?
I know it's easier to memorize my pieces because I just like played them more.
How about your progress?
I progress faster in the pieces and in my technique.
Yeah, like, do you have a percentage idea of how much faster you go? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I finished this chart. I'm like almost done with this chart that I'm on right now, and it's really hard. And
Yeah, it's an advanced one, and you whip right through it.
I've
fast.
only been half a year, a little more.
Yeah. Let's see, we started that in the August, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much because of the streak, don't you think? Yeah, okay, that's all I need to know. Thanks, Josephine.
So welcome.
Yeah, she's a true believer at this one. So I don't know if you can see this large enough on your screen here, but what she was talking about was a chart. So all of my students go through and participate in the keyboard gymnastics program, which is a program anybody can run. TOS has our manual there if you want, but the technique portion is written in the teacher's handbook, but we've created these technique charts, a progress chart, so each student can have their level in their binder, so they can see exactly where they've been and where they're going and what's required of them. And then when they have completed all the tasks on that chart, they're sent to another teacher at any time during the year. They FaceTime in, or what's the other one? Google Duo in with their technique tester for a 10-minute test, and then they get a score on how if they've completed their technique, and that applies toward our program. I'm sure lots of states have different things to do, right? Like, I'm not sure what Tennessee does, but I know California has their certificate of merit program and something like that. So this is just what our program is. And I screenshotted in a few of the charts. So let me tell you how impressive this is, just so you know. She just was working on level K, which is the one on the top in the far right corner. So she's having to play all of the minor arpeggios, and I think we're doing root first and second inversion, quarters up to 16th notes, I think. And then she's doing, what scales is she doing on this one? Harmonic minor scales. No, harmonic and melodic minor scales. And then her cadences, she has to do plagal and authentic cadences, but in every inversion. So bump, bump. She has to do all the plagal ones all the way up and all the way back down. But she's doing these on all of the major keys there. And then her keyboard skill, I think that one she's modulating like up a half step with the folk tune. So when she goes to take her test, she has to be prepared on all of those things. So what I found, my students, is some of these upper levels are pretty tricky. It's not hard to learn all of those things, but sometimes it's hard to remember all the fingering and for your fingers to be able to do them. And basically, it's pretty impossible to do that unless you're consistently practicing it every day. Just because your brain knows how to do the fingering doesn't mean you can do it unless you're practicing. So if you look at the left-hand side, this is, and I give my students binders, right? And I write everything down, and I give them 2 pages of assignments. On the left-hand side is their technique assignment. And then the right-hand side is I write down what their repertoire is and what to do. So this particular one is from a 12-year-old. And it looks like he was doing an easier chart than these. And I was asking him to do a test on all of his keys that he needed to do. And he was supposed to do them all 5 times perfect every day. That was a little aggressive. And then he looks like he was testing on all of his chords. And then his transposing song was Kumbaya, and he needed to do that 3 times perfect. So depending on who the student is and what they need to do and where they are in relationship to their deadline, to completing whatever they're working toward, will determine on what their technique assignment is for the week. And I'm not about minutes, actually. Practicing for me is perfect practice, because, you know, I know how I used to practice as a kid. My parents were pretty clueless, and they just turned the timer on for 30 minutes. And you know what? I could play anything. I didn't have to practice. So a lot of my practice sessions were just messing around on the piano. They weren't really practicing because I didn't want to practice. So my students are, I'm like, if you want to get done faster, figure out how to play it perfectly and then move on. So the beginning of the week, it's going to take you longer, but by the end of the week, you'll be able to get through your list faster. So that's pretty much what they do. Now, just so you know, that this screenshot of that assignment for this little young guy is a little hefty. Usually they have a couple of arpeggios, 2 or 3, and 2 or 3 scales, and 2 or 3 of those, depending on where we are. So that's what the technique assignment looks like for their streak. Now let's talk about this Marco Polo app. By the way, I'm not a salesperson for Marco Polo. I don't get any money for them. Yeah, and I don't have anything set up, but I do love this app. The accountability portion is the best part. Students will do anything if they think you're going to look at it. And if it's on video, there's no denying if they do it or not. They can't go, oh yeah, but I can go back in their lesson and go, wait a minute. I can see you only did 2 minutes today. That does not count. I mean, really, come on. And I have to do that a little bit. There's a learning curve. But I had a young man, he's no longer in my studio, but he wanted to do the streak, but he only would spend 2 to 2.5 minutes, which is basically not even 1 or 2 scales. And then he wouldn't even play a piece. And he just didn't think I would ever check, kind of thing. So it's really kind of shocking to find out what they do when they practice when you first start watching, just so you know. So this Marco Polo app, that's what it looks like. It looks like that beach ball. When they are in this group, if you look at the left-hand side, that is a screenshot from a couple of days ago from my phone. And the top portion is where they usually place their phone, and you can see them practicing. And then the bottom part, you can see all of the other people who have actually recorded that day. So where it says Coco, that's actually Chloe. You're going to see a video of her later. But Chloe is, since it's got those pause buttons, that is who is practicing right now. And then to the left, a couple of other kids had already practiced. And the one to the right has that red dot. That just means it hasn't been viewed by anybody yet. And then I have the option of, if you look at the smiley face there, of sending them like hearts or smile emojis or whatever, so they can look at it if they want. Here's why I buy a subscription for Marco Polo. It's $60 a year. It's completely worth it to me because that little button right there on the left-hand side that says 3x, I can listen to their recording at 3 times the speed, or 2 times the speed, or 1 time the speed. So I can zip through really fast and hear their scales like really, really quickly. And I can ascertain what they need to do without spending the exact amount of time. So it is 100% worth it to me to have that, so I can go really, really fast. And it's also super fun to show them if they're painfully slow because they don't want to go faster, what it should sound like up to tempo if they do it the right way. So anyway, but the accountability part of the video is amazing. Here's what else I love about Marco Polo. When they record this video, it does not stay on any of your devices. It's not going to cause memory problems. It's not going to fill your phone up or your computer. It just stays someplace else in the cloud or whatever. So, and once they're finished, it goes. It's like you have a performance and it's gone. They don't, and as they're playing, you can pop in there and watch them as they're practicing live, which is super fun too. So I love this app. It's also great for family too. You can just send a fun little app and do great things. By the way, I used this when I was teaching, for years I would teach on Crystal Cruise Line. What a gig that was, so fun. I was teaching a group piano class, and for 2 or 3 years, they had this world cruise where I would be gone for 6 weeks, which is a long time. So I had my students send me Marco Polos. They would just send me, they would sit down and they would send me their whole thing. And I was in Africa, and then I would get their Marco Polo. I'd watch it, and then I would send them a reply lesson back Marco Polo via Wi-Fi. It was the best. So it's a pretty great free app, just so you know. And it's super nice for them to see each other. Okay, so let me show you kind of what that looks like. I put my students in these different groups. So if you look, I have this top group is, I put the number 6 there because I know when I go through to see who's done it that day, it helps me count. So if somebody doesn't do it, I can just delete them from the chat and I'll change that number to 5, and it helps me know how many videos I need to count. That's kind of for me. And then the second one is there's 5 streakers. Now you might see there's more members. Well, I do that so that sometimes technical issues happen. So I might include their parents in that group so that they can have access to another phone to record, just in case they get down to do it and their phone's not working or doesn't have any charge and they can't do it or whatever. So that's why those numbers don't match up. So I have a group of like 10th through 12th graders, and then I have 7th through 9th graders. Those are my 2 groups that I put together to do that. And then I also tell them when they get started, it might be a good idea to turn the notifications off because they're going to get a lot every day, and that's super annoying. So turn that off on their phones so they don't get bothered during that. The best part, the other great part about this app is they can record this unlimited amount of time. I mean, they can record 2 hours if you want, and it just does not mess around with, doesn't take up any time on your phone, which is fantastic, I think. And they update right as you go. So it's like a lesson. They don't get like 4 repeated tries to do it. It just goes. As soon as they're done, it's uploaded and you got it, which I love. And anybody in the chat can watch anybody else. So sometimes I'll hop on there and I'll see that, oh, Olivia's practicing and somebody else is watching, and it says who else is watching. So the kids can see, oh my gosh, somebody's watching me practice. So guess what? I practice a little bit better that way. And I'm a metronome. I'm just kind of, I'm a real believer in the metronome. So they all have to do their technique with the metronome. So they have to make sure that they have a different device. If they're using the metronome that's on, a phone, they have to have a different one or have an old school metronome, because you cannot record with your Marco Polo and use the metronome at the same time. It doesn't really work. So that's kind of nice to know. Let's talk about the camaraderie that builds for doing this. So this picture right here that you can see is several different groups in a few years. The one in the bottom right-hand corner is my current group of students right now. And they're all in the same Marco Polo group. What's great about this streak is they encourage each other. Sometimes they get on there and they're like, they hop on, you're like, hey, everybody, it's been a really crummy day. And they start telling everybody in their group what's happening. And then you'll get on there later and they're like, oh, Blake, that does sound like you had a crummy day. I hope it was better. I mean, they're so nice and kind to each other. It's the best. And these kids don't go to the same schools. I'm looking at this group right here and I can see all these high schoolers, and I have I have 4 different schools represented there, but they all go to the same group class together when we have group, and they've all been in piano lessons at least 4 or 5 years with the same group. And so they're all really great friends, which is nice, because piano is kind of a lonely sport. It's kind of a lonely thing. And especially I find boys feel like they're the only ones on the planet that are doing it. So it's just nice to have somebody else cheering for you and rooting for you. And that's nice and friendly. So that excitement helps a lot. The accountability is the best, because they know I could watch them at any time. And usually we do something fun. So these pictures, actually, the one in the right-hand corner, all of this group, they were all playing in our big ensemble concert, and we all played a Hamilton song. So if you follow me on Facebook, you would have seen that. If you don't follow me, pop on there and you can scroll back to a few days ago. We did You'll Be Back from Hamilton, and I dressed up like King George. So, but they were great. And the kids who played actually were only my students who signed up for that group. So it was just those kids right there. They sounded great. So I took them for ice cream afterward. The reason they sounded great is they were practicing that piece every day on their street, which helped a lot. The top right-hand corner was a group 2 years ago. And this group, their reward was they had to do 2 streaks in a year. And we did a hymn challenge. They had to learn 12 hymns. That was a big thing. And then I took them to Disneyland. And of course, parents paid, by the way. They know if we're doing something like that, it's the parents pay for that. However, it was a huge thing. And I live close to Disneyland. We can drive there back and forth. It's a 6-hour drive and 6 hours back. So we can do it in a day and sleep over and come back. But it was a huge goal for them. And they became such amazing pianists, because first they wanted to go to Disneyland. But the real goal, the real reward, was how fantastic they played. And now those 4 that you see in that picture are still best friends. They're all in college. They all are still in contact with each other. They all love each other. That, I'm telling you, the camaraderie is amazing. The ones on the left-hand side, that was my first group that I did that with. And yeah, 2 of those kids are married at this point. So kind of crazy. So oh yeah, and here's the best part. The best part is the kids do it for you. You don't have to be a mean teacher. You can be nice and great. And then the kids are all about, gosh, you could probably do better. Or really, was that streak long enough? They police it like nobody's business. So it's great. You can just sit back and go, yeah, I guess whatever. It's great. But they're kind and they do it in a nice way, which I love. Okay, so I was talking to you a little bit about rewards. I live in Arizona, right? So I can do some fun things, but the biggest reward, what I tell them, is bragging rights. They're doing something really hard. It's not easy to do 100 days in a row. It's just not. It's not. So I acknowledge that you are doing something really hard. And kids don't always finish. I mean, they pop out of the group, they don't do it one day and it's over. And they have to start over next time. They have to wait until the next time we run the streak. So they don't, I don't really change the rules that way. I look at it like when I run a marathon, or when I was running marathons, if I decided, oh, I think I want to skip out on this mile and not run this mile, and I'll have somebody pick me up and drive that part, and then I'm going to just jump back in, I'm not going to get my medal for running my marathon because I didn't do it. One day is a big deal. So in order for it to be 100-day streak, they actually have to do 100 days in a row. That's kind of a big thing. Though the first time I did it, I didn't do 100 days. I started with 60 days. And it went so well, I thought it became such a habit. And the kids were like, it's really not that big of a deal to do it. That I thought, okay, let's just make it real. Let's do 100. And then that's why we stuck with that 100. But that bragging rights, that's a huge thing. Anyone that finished, every time they finished a streak, I made these pins up. Let's see if you can see them right here. Just a little pin. It has my logo on it. And I think I did it on, I had my logo made on Vistaprint. By the way, they were great. It was $90 to get a logo made with a bunch of repeats. It was super fun. So this pin, they can put it on their bag. And some of them have 5 and 6 of them. They get one every time. So when they come to group, you can count how many times they've done the streak, which is kind of a cool thing. I think it's kind of like getting a medal, if you run a race. I always do an annual party. My husband is the biggest golfer in the world. So we have a membership to Top Golf, which is like a fancy driving range that has really great food. I'm a terrible golfer. I just go and eat and then visit with everybody. But we do that, or we might go to the movies, or I might do a swim party, because remember, I'm in Arizona and everyone has a swimming pool here. So just because it's so hot, we do some kind of a party. And then I always take pictures, send it out to the parents, let all the kids see what we're doing so that they can feel like, it's a big thing. And then again, the bigger trips, like I would never do 100 days practice streak and have the reward be Disneyland, because that's a huge thing. And I only do a Disney trip every other year. I don't do it every year because it's kind of it's kind of some work for me. So, but the kids know, and it keeps them going to do those kind of things. So teenagers are all about doing things together, and they like the party because they like to hang out together. So, and that's what those big rewards are for several streaks. So here's a couple of fun pictures of how the streak builds the student confidence. All these 3 students have become really quite proficient pianists. And I love how they tell me, magically, all of a sudden, when I do the streak, magically, I'm prepared. I think, right, because you did it every day, and we can prove that you did it. It wasn't this, oh yeah, I really did it, and I filled out my practice log on the drive over. So they make it up. And I don't think they make it up to lie on purpose. I just think they don't always remember. So let's hear what Chloe has to say.
This is Chloe. How old are you, Chloe?
I'm 16.
And how many times have you done the streak?
5, 6 times maybe.
And what do you like about it? What do you not like about it?
Well, I like that it makes me do my piano, and so I actually sound good for my lesson. I don't like it because I have to do my piano.
Got it?
Yeah.
And do you notice a difference between when you're doing the streak and when you're not doing a streak?
Yeah, because my songs actually sound good, and I can actually play my technique because I'm actually like practicing it well.
Oh, and why do you think you're practicing it well?
Well, because you're gonna watch the video and you'll know if I'm lying or not.
You're awesome.
So they kind of all know. Yeah, they all know. And you know what? I think every one of us, if we're honest, We all at one point tried to fake it at piano lessons because we weren't as prepared. All my students have done that. But once they're doing the streak, the faking is over. They show up and I'm like, hey, what do you want to start with today? Oh, my technique is so good. And they sit down and whip it right off. And it's like, wow, that was amazing. That's so weird because the 2 months before when we were doing the streak, you had the same scale for this whole time. And you said you were practicing. They're like, yeah, but I wasn't on video. So like, I know. So here's some other fun things that are helpful for the streak. Okay. The time management part is key. Teenagers frequently have a real hard time figuring out how to manage their time, as I'm sure you all know. And it requires scheduling practice time. Some of my students are now driving. They have a job. They're doing a sport. A lot of them go to early morning church class, and then they have church responsibilities. So they're like busy all the time. So they have to schedule a time to get it done, which requires some work for them to do it. I did purchase a roll-up piano. I have 2 of them. They're made out of silicone. They were like $60. And they roll out and they fold up. I should go grab one to show to you. Do you want me to go get it so you can see what it looks like? Is it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go really fast. And if you think of any questions, I'll be back in less than 30 seconds. Hang on. I'll go fast. Okay, back. So it comes in this handy dandy box right here. And of course, I have 2 of them and I loan them out. But really, they can just take this with them when they go on vacation, like if they're going to go into a hotel or something. And I'm going to show you this next fun picture that, there you go. All of these are different kids who have actually borrowed this silicone roll-up keyboard, or one of them, or they bought one for themselves because I only have 2 and they all know that I can only loan out 2 because I only have 2. So if it's Martin Luther King weekend and I have 11 kids doing the streak and they've requested, I don't have enough. So I have a couple families that just bought their own. So they would just have them. So let me just show you quick. They're not amazing. Sorry. But they're good enough that when I have traveled, and I had to practice at a conference one time. And I'll put this right here so you can see. In my hotel room, can sit right on your desk and away. Let's see. Can you see that okay? Here we go. So if you put it on a desk, so it's not amazing, and it double strikes and it's annoying and the kids don't like to really practice on it. But here's what it does. It keeps them in the habit of doing it, keeps them doing their fingering, keeps them going with a metronome. It shows that they're dedicated and they planned ahead to do it, which I love. And you can see in these pictures, some of them couldn't find a place, like at the top left-hand corner. I've got Ethan up there and he's got his, he's doing it on the floor, which is not ideal, of course. A couple of them do it on the floor, and beds don't work great. Desks are always better. But they're making that effort and they're doing it. One time I had a gal just go in the closet of the hotel and do all of her practicing in the closet to get it all finished. And they recorded it. And I always take screenshots of these because it's impressive to me that they're doing that they went on vacation, they went to Disneyland, and they took 10 minutes out before they went to the park or 10 minutes when they got back, and they did their stuff. Do they do all of their street great that time? Usually not. Usually they do like a lame amount, like 6 minutes or something. I don't care. They did it. They did it. They did it. So I just think it's really, it's a cool way for them to keep on that path of those 100 days in a row. And it's manageable. Everybody can do it. So your parents, the parents are so happy about this. The streak is, they whine and complain, the streak's a pain, but not really. Because the truth is, at the end result is amazing. The kids play, the progress is so incredible. You can hardly believe the kind of progress that you see. I mean, after the first time I did it, I was flabbergasted at how much better my students played. And it wasn't the fact that they were recording their repertoire pieces. It was that I was vigilant about their technique, and having their technique and there's all of those skills quick and fast and clean, of course, transferred over to their pieces. And that's why they got so good, is because their technical skills were just improving that much faster. And of course, oh my gosh, I'm pretty happy because when they come to their lesson, they're prepared every time. It's heaven. It's heaven. However, I do have to be the policewoman sometimes and get on and do, yeah, you have to do technique first. If you think you're gonna, I had to make that rule because some just were like recording and they weren't doing their technique, and then they'd come and not be able to play. They try to manipulate and do some fun, crazy things. But I love this meme right here of what gives people feelings of power. I changed it up a little bit. Money, status, but really playing with confidence the first time, because you don't usually get 2, 3, 4 times to do it. So that 100-day practice streak, it builds confidence with consistent preparation over an extended period of time. That's what it does. And truly the key to all of it is making sure they do it in a way that they're accountable. When they tell their friends, that's what they're doing. Just like, whatever his name is, Oedipus? No, that's the wrong guy. It's Ulysses, right? Trying to pass the sirens. He told all of his buddies, this is coming. This is hard for me. Tie me up so I'm not tempted, right? If you want your kids to practice and do well, make them accountable to each other, not just to you, because they don't care as much about you because you're an old grown-up, right? They care about their peers more than they care about you. So if their peers are keeping you in line, they'll do it. They'll just do it because that accountability totally works. So there you go. That's how I've done my, made that work for my studio. So I hope that gives you some fun ideas. Does anybody have any questions or ideas they want to share?
Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. Any questions?
Do they practice anything else, or?
Did you hear that?
Do the rest of their lesson?
So your question, do they practice anything else on their streak? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, do you find they're practicing the rest of their lesson as well, besides what you require?
Sometimes. I have a few that ask me to assign that to them so that it forces them to do it. But usually, no, they usually just do their basic things. I also keep track of if they do full practice for me, it's different from the streak. So if they're doing their streak and then they're not doing their theory and they're not doing all their other things, it doesn't count as full practice for that month, because I pay them, I give them a $10 rebate of real money back if they do everything that they're supposed to do. And if they're not doing all that, they don't get it. So some do all of it, but mostly just get that bare minimum. I think most of us all will do what we're asked to do. So if the bar is here, we're going to do that. If the bar's there, we're going to do that. If it's here, we're going to do that. So that's what I found with the street too.
I have a question. Do you think if you had a very religious student who wasn't supposed to work or anything one day a week, like for their Sabbath or something, do you think it could be modified to be 6 days a week, a streak that had six days a week for 100 days?
You know, I have lots of religious students, but it's not quite the same, right? And my students, if they have that concern, I would say that they can play church music for their streak. So they're still on the piano, but they're doing that for their portion. Does that make sense? But you know what? You can do whatever you want to do. This isn't like I'm not marketing you have to follow my plan or whatever, you know what I mean? So if you decide to do something like this, you could make your own rules and have it be however kind of thing.
Sure.
So
Your perspective on it. Thanks.
oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I have some that sometimes Wi-Fi, you have to have Wi-Fi that's working for it to go. Like they can record their streak on Marco Polo, but if they don't have Wi-Fi, it won't upload until they're around Wi-Fi. So sometimes they don't show up, and it's just good to make sure everyone's on the same page with technical issues, or they forget to push the record button. But sometimes they don't practice and then they say they forgot to push the record button. So, you have to talk to the parents and see what really happened kind of thing. But, but that's just how I've managed to do that with my studio. And, it's the best. The kids ask when it's going to happen again, when we're not doing it, which I find interesting.
I've got a couple questions. First, thanks for this for this awesome presentation. Really, really insightful and inspiring. The first question is, do you ever change what assignments they have during that 100-day period? Have you ever found that you need to swap something? And if so, how often do you do that?
All the time. So their assignment changes every week. So each have a different technique assignment, because sometimes they'll come, it's amazing, great, we're moving on, here's your next assignment. And then we'll alternate what piece they're doing. For example, yesterday, Chloe, she has 2 pieces she's working on. One's amazing and the other one's not so great. So I told her, you can keep working on your amazing one for 2 days. So you can get your other one up a little bit better before you get it on the street, kind of thing. But they always alternate their pieces each week. So we determine every week what their street piece will be.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I love when you said it can be shocking to see how students are practicing when you see them practicing for the first time. I got a laugh out of that.
Oh my gosh,
what the heck are they doing?
Start at the beginning and go to the end. And I'm like, whoa. That's not practicing. You're playing. Yeah. And that's where that 3 times, that's where the subscription saves my behind, because I can push it by 3 and then just listen through and go, wait a minute. And I try at least once, since I have 11 kids, once a week, I try to pick a different kid and just listen to one session and then just take notes to see how they're practicing. And then I can go back and say, hey, this is what I saw. And I saw it on this day. This is really, it's really telling what their practicing is like.
Okay, one more question. You mentioned that it's required for the high school students. Have you had to kick students out for not doing it? Because I'm a big softie when it comes to that kind of thing. I feel like that would be hard.
Well, I'm going to give you an example. I have this young man. We had this discussion yesterday. Carter, love him. And he bailed out the first semester. He only made it about a week. And this time he made it like 8 or 9 days and then just didn't do it. So we had this discussion yesterday. I say, Carter, do you want to quit? Is that what you want to do? Are you doing this so you have to be out? Because that's what the rule is. And he's like, well, no, but I had this and my mom wouldn't let me practice because the piano's so loud and it will wake my little brother up. I said, Okay. I'm buds with his mom. She's an amazing pianist. I'm not sure how true that last part is, but she and I are going to get on the same page. But I said, so Carter, 100 days is 100 days. So if you started now and you went, because I can't like say, you just can skip that one day and jump back in, because guess what? Everyone knows, and then it doesn't work. What do you want to do? It's like, no, I really want to do it. I said, okay. So I'll let you, we're not going to tell everybody that's what we're doing, because they don't always count like I do. You're just going to extend yours a little bit longer. You're still doing 100 days, but your tail end, you're going to have about 10 days that you're going to be doing it by yourself, if that's what you want to do. So that was what our agreement was. Yeah. So that's where I am on. I don't like kicking people out, especially if they want to do it. But if they're obnoxious, it was awesome to kick this other kid out who's doing 2 minutes a day. I was like, perfect. I didn't have a meaning. He really didn't want to do it anyway. It was a way to just go, we're good. I can put somebody else in. So, but remember, it's your job. So you can run your studio however you want.
Thanks.
This is Cynthia. I have a question. I have several students who are 45-minute lessons, and I asked them, I don't always get it, but I asked them, if you've got a 45-minute lesson, you should be doing 45 minutes a day practice. And if you have a 30-minute lesson, you should be doing, 20 to 30 minutes a day practice. Of course, that's just for 5 days. So how do you do that? Because I know you said you require a minimum. If they are only doing a minimum of 10 minutes a day, even though they're doing it for 100 days straight, do you get the same results? Or are there days that you do require them to practice more? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So my students are required. This is not with the streak. My kids are required to do 6 days a week. They get a day off. I don't care what day it is. Except for if they're doing the streak, they have to do their streak for that. But their main requirement is they have to do 6 days a week, and I don't care. I truly don't care about minutes. I care that they can go through and do what I ask them to do. Play these 3 scales 3 times perfectly. The first day, it's going to take them longer to do that. If they're practicing correctly, it's going to take them longer at the beginning of the week and shorter at the end of the week, because they're working on small things, doing them a certain amount of repetitions until they can do it accurately, kind of thing. And then I usually let them have 1 day to do their theory that can count as practice. So their regular practicing is different from the streak. Some kids just do the streak. They don't do anything else. They're my bare minimum ones, but I still notice a vast difference in how they play, even if they're only on there for 12 minutes. And that's pretty much my requirement. The streak, you got to put in 12 minutes. It's going to take you at least 12 minutes to go through your technique and to play 1 repertoire piece and drill a section. And that's the bare minimum. So they all know that's their bare minimum. But even with that small amount, with kids who are my lowest performers, the difference in how they play is incredible, just incredible. Most of them do, I would say, if I talk to their parents, I would say they probably do on average 40 minutes to an hour of practicing every day total, if they do what they're supposed to do. So, and I only do 40 to 45-minute lessons. I don't do 30-minute lessons anymore, because I just have too much to do. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Maybe I could throw in a little comment in reference to how you said you don't care about the minutes so much. That reminds me of one time when the performing group, the 5 Browns, came and performed in Knoxville, where it's all 5 in one family and they have 5 pianos all at once. And then they had a question and answer session, and somebody asked one of them, how much do you practice each day? And I thought, this is going to be really interesting to hear what she has to say about that. And then her answer was, I practice until the job is done.
Wow.
Isn't that great? Rather than focusing on the number of minutes, focusing on the purpose of it and what you're trying to accomplish. And so yeah, try to but yeah, anyway, just thought I'd throw that in because it was a really helpful answer she gave.
100%, 1,000%. Because here's the truth. If you sit there and mess around and do nothing for an hour, or you sit down and you work on one measure for 10 minutes or 5 minutes for that matter, 5 minutes, and you're able to connect it from the other and you get rid of a pause and you're finally able to play it up to tempo, that 5 minutes is way more valuable than that hour of messing around doing nothing. In my opinion.
It's true. They can sit down at the piano for 45 minutes and accomplish nothing.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to teach with the streak. I'm trying to teach them how to properly practice. So what does perfect mean? If you use the wrong finger on that scale, it's not perfect. It doesn't count. If you're supposed to do that 3 times perfect, perfect means you with the metronome, use the right fingers, and they know. And you know what? When they come back, they can miraculously play it unless they learned it wrong, which then we have to restart. That happens sometimes too. But, it's kind of amazing.
I do have a question too. We saw that those charts, the musicianship, whatever. Do you share those, your technique goals? You had some, the handouts or your assignments.
I see what you're asking. So the technique charts, hang on, I've got, I think, an example. No, wrong one. All my binders right here. No, I don't have one right here. So those technique charts those are copyrighted. You can purchase them at Chose. I charge a registration fee for my students, and I just buy 10 of every level, because even though I wrote them, I have to buy them too, because that's how it works when they buy your company, when you're published. So anyway, I just order them all, and as they're ready, they finish a level, I put a new one in. But I have the syllabus with what's required on each level, and it's just written on plain paper in a book, right? The charts are super helpful for me because I can't remember what they're doing. I can't remember who's been doing what, where they are, what they know. And as they learn their material, they do stickers. Even my teenagers do stickers because they all want them to be the same and look amazing, whatever. But I cannot teach without those, because it helps me know where they've been and where they're going, and be focused on how to make that work. But they're all available on the Chose website. But if you have a syllabus you're doing, like, I don't know if Tennessee has a state thing, you could make something, somebody could make one for each level and do that for whatever you're doing, and accomplish the same thing for your particular achievement program that you're doing. Does that make sense? Yeah. And we set that up, just so you know, when our 3 Cranky Women, we actually started because of our state achievement program wasn't working for us. So that's how we started before we even did our games. The beauty of the technique program is when they're ready and they're done, they can take their test anytime all year long. They don't have to sit and wait until the achievement day to do it. So they're always progressing. So I have kids that might pass off 3 levels in a year, or 1 or 2, depending on where they are and how they're going, but they're always moving forward instead of having to wait for that one day, which is why we did it that way.
Any other questions? Thank you, Charlene, so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
you are so welcome. And you know what? It looks like I'm going to MTNA. So if any of you are going to Reno to MTNA, I will be there. So come by and say hello and play some games with me because I will have all of our fun games there to play.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you for being so patient while we were setting up. That was kind of a nightmare, but we did it. We did it. Thanks to everybody helping, yes. So,
It all worked. So feel free to send any more questions if you have some. And it was fun to chat with y'all.
thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank
Okay.
you. Have a great day, everyone. Awesome. That was super fun. Okay. It looks like it might be cold where you are. Is it cold there? Is it cold? Oh, I lost your sound.
Cold outside.
Yeah. Well, I'm wearing a sweater because in Arizona it's like 40 degrees. I know. Lame. It'll probably be 60 later and then I can't complain, right? Anyway, thanks. Have a great day, everybody.